and citizens of America, tonight, as we mark the conclusion of our celebration of Black History Month, we are reminded of our nation's path toward civil rights and the work that still remains to be done. Recent threats.
Good morning. This is Mac with Mac Commentary. And also, I have Bob with me this morning. We're going to do a little talk here this morning and try to make some comments about the speech of President Trump on last evening. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Well, I'm doing just great, Mac. How are you? Thank you for calling and having me on.
Yeah, Bob, that was a dynamic speech President Trump gave last night. I mean, as I've told you in the past, I don't agree with everything Mr. Trump is saying or he does. But for the most part, though, I do agree with him because I think he is really showing the characteristics of being a great president. And and as far as I'm concerned, I like maybe 90% of everything he says. There are a few things that I don't like. I don't like too much the rhetoric or whatever you may want to call it when he talks about building a wall along the Mexican border. I remember when I think of that, I think of Robert Frost's poem, Fences Mending Walls, you know, how fences, keep neighbors away and things like that. And it's sort of and you do an analysis of that poem, you'll come up with reasons why you don't necessarily may not want to put a wall there. And I look at it also from the standpoint, Bob, and I don't want to use all of our time talking about a wall because he said some dynamic things in there. But what was your take on this speech last night, Bob?
Well, I thought it was an enormously helpful speech. I was very proud of our president to see him stand up and make the kinds of magnanimous overtures that he made to the rest of the world. I particularly like the fact that he said that he is the president for the United States of America. He's not the president for the world. He said there's going to be two main ideas that we're going to go forward with here in America. America first. We're gonna put America job. It's going to be made in America, and we're going to hire Americans. And I particularly like the fact that with that Keystone Pipeline, he said that when he found out, he asked them, well, where's the pipe being built? And they told him, and he said, okay, what kind of steel? Well, we're using such and such steel. He said, no, it's going to be American steel. And I like that because, I mean, it's putting our people first. And I'll just make one light comment about the wall, Mac. I think that our president is right on point with that wall. I don't think that he... It's like this, even with your neighbors. Sometimes you put up a fence just to delineate what your property line is and what their property line is, so that if they start growing a garden and they grow some of it in your yard, actually those tomatoes that they grew in your yard, in fact, belong to you because it's on your property. But you might, you might say, well, I'll go out and pick a couple of tomatoes from Mac's garden. And then that might start an argument because you say, wait a minute, you don't have a right to my tomatoes. Well, yes, I do because they're on my property. Well, see, our president is trying. We don't want the people we don't want that dope and all that stuff that's killing our young people here in America. He's trying to keep that stuff out of there. These previous presidents, George Bush and Barack Obama, I think they were welcoming the dope smugglers in there. That guy El Chapo, he's one of the biggest dope dealers in the world, and he just wantonly shipped his dope across the border. Well, like the president said last night, he's getting those people out of this country, and they're going to stop coming in here, and that's what that wall is all about. But that was just a small part of what he's trying to do. I think we've got a great president, and I am so happy to hear him speak and what he is doing for the inner cities and what he's doing for HBCUs. I mean, this guy is a fantastic
Bob, that's a good point there. One of the things is that he talks about the black community, and this is what surprises me with many people within the black community. Why aren't they out really listening to what this president is saying? Because if you go back, I don't think I have ever in my lifetime, Bob, and I've been around for many presidents, heard one president ever say anything about positive about the Black History Month, or mention Black History Month before in a speech before Congress, and I've never heard a president, and we had a black president, he never talked about that. I never heard a black president.
Well, you had two black presidents.
Well,
you had two black presidents.
Right. Well, we have one so-called the first one. They say he was the first black president, but both of those presidents, if you go back to that first one that you're talking about, what he did was he took, and I don't say it's a bad thing, he really took all of the people off of welfare, which a lot of people should have been on there, because, I mean, you're always going to have your poor, Bob. And the other thing he did, he opened up the gateway to imprison many. You're talking about drugs for the affecting young people. He opened up the gateway to flood the prisons with our young people as well, off of some frivolous convictions. And I think that by him doing that, he supported the prison industrial complex, which, I mean,
absolutely,
which a lot of the prisoners became privately owned, and that was during the so-called first president era. And even though now, one of the things I've heard that is that the President Obama had somehow or another caused said that they would no longer have private prisoners, and issue some type of directive or something to that point. I believe that that President Trump has reversed that. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that you're right. You know, the first black president, President Bill Clinton, he did both of those guys, both of those black presidents, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, did their people a very severe disservice. The one, as you suggested, put more blacks in prison than any other. There's more black slave labor in prisons than there were black slaves around 1843. And the present most recent black president, he never acknowledged, as you've already suggested, anything about doing anything significant for his own people. I mean, he was from Chicago, and Chicago, as President Trump said last night, they had 4,000 people shot last year. I never heard Obama talk about that. I mean, he could have made one trip to Chicago and met with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and they could have sat down and had a summit right there in Chicago, because they're both homeboys, and he would have been able to perhaps get some kind of reconciliation between those gangs. But he didn't even do that. And the Honorable Chicago Minister Louis Farrakhan, he is working with the gangs there in Detroit, in Chicago, trying to bring about some kind of armistice among those people that are shooting each other. So my take is that you had two black presidents that didn't do anything for the black community, and now you have a Caucasian or white president who wants to do something for black people. As he said in his speech, he's talking about all Americans. So I think that these people need to stop this nonsense. You know, it occurred to me, you saw all those people, some of those politicians sitting there in the audience in white uniforms or whatever it was. It looked like people coming from a bakery. But and you know, it occurred to me, why would they choose white uniforms to sit in a legislative body like that? Why couldn't they put on black uniforms? What is the message that they're trying to sell? Is it white is right? You know, and because they have on white uniforms before the president, that they're trying to send a symbolic message to the world that white is right, and if you wear black, get back. I don't know, Mac. I just think that these people are using logic in their appearance. I mean, and in their approach to trying to make America great again.
Well, I for one really think that, like you stated, Bob, that that blacks should. I'm more concerned about the black community getting behind Mr. Trump for the reason that our community is in a very bad state. And when I say our community, I'm talking about in specific our people in the inner cities and in outlying cities, because I think the mindset of blacks in this country have been dumbed down over the last 20 to 30 years, Bob. And that is exhibited through the type of music that we have today versus the music that we had 40 years ago. And you know the type of music we had then. That was happy music. Today, the type of stuff that you hear now is so debilitating, if you want to use that word, if you will, to the mind that it has corrupted many of our young people. You may talk about the drugs and stuff that's bothering young people, but I don't think drugs has nearly the effect on our young people as the type of the music that they hear in the movies and other things that they watch. I think that's the real problem right there that we are experiencing here in America with our young black people. And until we wake up and start to smelling the roses, so to speak, and get behind this president and start doing some of the things and getting ready for the jobs that he will be creating, you can go there and listen to a lot of these people on these other liberal type news shows, and you'll come away with a very sad feeling, because they are saying that, oh, there won't be any jobs created, no more jobs. That's just a lot of talk. Well, I can't see where there can be a lot of talk when you are keeping businesses in this country and plants in this country and factories in this country to manufacture goods, so that they will definitely have jobs available, but you just have to be prepared for it. And I think it's just like, I remember something, I'm going to make this quite quick, Bob, that in Michigan, I remember the Governor Snyder there made a statement about that if the Syrian refugees come here, he will put them up in the city of Detroit, and they can have all the high-tech jobs. And I'm thinking at that particular time that we had 29% unemployment per the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But in actuality, we had unemployment in the city of Detroit somewhere closer to 50%. And you had over 600,000 residents in the city. Now, you mean to tell me you can't find 50, 100,000 people to train for jobs. And I think this is and no blacks spoke up against what this Governor Snyder when he made those statements. But then right after that, of course, you had the bombing there with some of the Syrians over in Paris. And what happened? They all said, well, Snyder came out and said, well, I'm not going to bring any refugees here. And 21 governors of other states did the same thing. So blacks have to start saying, wait, when are we going to get on this wagon and start recommending and setting up some vocational training for our young people and for our older people who wants to work, you know?
Well, you know, Mac, I really that's one thing that excites me about your show and speaking with your audience, because you are the consummate optimist, and I like your the way that you try to speak out. But I'm not as optimistic as you about black people in America. And I'm a black man. I've been here 77 years, and in the last 50 years, I've been very cognizant, very aware of the things that go on in this country. And one of my teachers, one of my mentors, Dr. Tolson, told me years ago when I was a student of his that our people are lost because we are ignorant. And you're absolutely right. And see, psychologists and psychotherapists, psychoanalysts, they know this. There's a concept called entrainment, ENTRAINMENT, which they could use a beat. It connects people's brain waves to beats and things like that to influence how they think. And that's been known in the psychological community for years. It's nothing new. Black psychologists and psychiatrists know it just as well as white. But you don't hear black psychiatrists, these specialists working with the head, talking about the fact that black people are being hypnotized and led around with a ring in their nose. Because it's not profitable for them to do that. Our people are fighting for survival. And those people that hold these office jobs, these so-called professionals, these politicians that you saw on TV last night, listening to our President Trump, all of them are fighting for the minimum wage for themselves. I mean, you don't see when you see them talking about President Trump filling his cabinet with billionaires. How many black billionaires have you seen on that screen? I haven't seen one. Now, perhaps there was a black billionaire up there, because I didn't know that President Bill Clinton was black. So maybe there were some black billionaires up there that look like they're Caucasian, but indeed they're black. But my point is this. We, as black people, don't fight for our interests, because we're all struggling for the same carrot. And you see, I think that the mistake that black people have made going back to the 60s, they thought that when civil rights brought us into a so-called level playing field or equal footing with the Caucasian, that if look at it like this, if you're on a ladder and you're 2 rungs up on the ladder, then I'm not even on the ladder, and somebody brings in legislation and says, well, Bob, you'll be on the same rung of the ladder as Mac. So that's great. What's it called? It's called civil rights. Okay, so they give you civil rights, and you get on the ladder. But now you're on the first rung. Mac's on the second. So you go up to the second. He goes up to the fifth. And you say, wow, I thought this was going to put me on an equal footing. Okay, we'll put you on an equal footing. So they put me on the fifth. But Mac continues to seem to live a better life because he doesn't understand, or I don't understand, the whole concept of where we are. Mac might say, "Oh, hey Bob, here's a couple of dribbles of here's some off the bone for you." I say, "Oh, okay, well, thank you, Massa." My point is this: we thought that by civil rights, that was going to put us on the same footing or equal footing with the Caucasian. That will never, and I underline that word in caps, Never. It will never happen in America. So we need to get off of that stupidity, thinking that we're going to be on the same footing as the Caucasian. You don't see these other races out here confining themselves to that. They go ahead and build their own communities. The Japanese, the Chinese, the French, all of these other races, they come in here, they build their communities, and they move on about their business, because they know that the number one thing in a capitalistic society is your economics. And so they don't care whether or not they can sit down next to you at a bus. And that was important, don't get me wrong. That was important to be able to show that we are humane. There's a humanness about us, because when they first set this place up, we weren't even considered to be a whole human being. We were, I think, 60% of a human being, according to the Constitution. So when I look at it, I'm not at all as optimistic as you are, but I applaud your optimism, and you keep struggling along those lines. I hope it doesn't struggle
Bob,
with you, brother.
Well, Bob, you can. I agree with what you've articulated there, but I mean, and I also look at it like this: when you talk about what they give you, the dribblings or the trickle down or whatever that happens. I mean, to put it in more of a reality perspective, you take a look at these so-called rappers, senior hip hoppers out there. I mean, they get millions of dollars from the powers that be that control that industry, while the ones that control it get billions of dollars, and that's the dribblers that you're talking about. And while they get their millions of dollars, what do? They live the lifestyle of the rich and famous, but anytime they want to take them down, they take them down. You see it all the time. And what are they doing to earn that? They are denigrating their own people and making their own people look bad. And I mean, the thing it is, not only look bad, but do dumb things, and that's what you call dumbing them down and making them act badly towards each other, like all the killings you talk about in Chicago. A lot of that stuff is predicated on that type of music that they listen to that entrainment that you spoke of. They are made to think that another black life doesn't matter. But you don't see them going out. And see, white people have nothing to be afraid of blacks. You don't see those same people going out killing any white people, do you? Because they're entrained to kill each other. It's all part of the system, Bob.
Well, I would think that after being here and that's why I said, in my 77 years over the last 50 particularly, I've looked at some of these things and I've come to different conclusions. But obviously, a lot of our people, much smarter than I, have not come to those same conclusions that I've come to.
Bob, they haven't come. They've come to that conclusion. They see exactly what we see. But their pockets are being lined, and they are living what the so-called good life, the much better life than your average black out here. So why should they come in and try to change this thing as long as their family doing all right? They could give a hoot about the rest of them.
That's right. You're absolutely right about that. That's why I say I applaud your optimism, because you keep plugging along, plugging. You keep plugging for that because you believe that there is a light. That when we're in this tunnel together back, and we see that light coming at us from the tunnel, and you are the optimist. You think that light is coming from a vast, much more beautiful space when we get out that tunnel. I think that light is a freight train coming in the tunnel, and I'm trying to get you off that track.
Well, the thing it is, whether I'm on the track or not, I mean, I would get off the track if it has a freight train. But I mean, the thing it is, I'm just hoping that, and I'm not only, life is based on hope, optimism. I mean, if you don't have hope, you don't have anything, Bob. That's the way I feel. Well, so what I'm hoping for, I'm hoping that there will be a real leader will step up and surreptitiously, covertly lead the black people to the promised land, so to speak. Don't be open with it. Don't get on C-SPAN, CNN, and telegraphed everything you're thinking about and what you're planning to do. Don't get on YouTube planning that, but have closed door meetings. And like some people may say, well, there are no more closed doors. There are, because I tell you what, I know for a fact that the rich Republicans have closed door meetings. They allow no news people to come into that meeting, or nobody for that matter, if they're not invited and if they don't meet certain criteria. And the same thing, and because their meetings are private. And they plan who they gonna put out there. Everything is plain. They plan everything, Bob. Same thing.
Right. I agree with you, and I think that I think that we have that person in our President Donald Trump. He is going to do more for black people over the next 4 years than either of those other two black presidents did in 16 years. He is doing precisely what you suggest. He's going behind closed doors. He's formulating meetings. He's using Dr. Ben Carson as one of his prime surrogates in this effort, and he is going to do magnificent things for black people if we will just open up our eyes and open up our ears and open up our hearts and be receptive to what he tries to do.
Exactly. I agree with you. But what I'm saying is that there has to be black leadership has to come together, and someone got to lead them out of this muck and this quagmire that they are in right now. Somebody got to lead them out of that, Bob. I mean, even though you got President Trump up there getting ready to do certain things, but the fact that the masses have been dumbed down so much that they use every type of excuse not to accept this man as their president. And unless somebody step forward that they believe and trust and convince them that, hey, we've got to do this, we got to get behind him, unless something like that happens, no matter what President Trump does, I mean, maybe, I'm just maybe with a hope, maybe that when he start doing these things and they begin to see, maybe they will believe.
I agree, and I think that person can be Dr. Ben Carson.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He is the kind of man, and he's shown throughout his life that he is that kind of a person. He, in my eyes, could be the professional who not only, and he's a spiritual man, and he has the hope of humanity, I think, in his spirit. And he could be our leader in this instance, because he and Donald Trump are, like they say on the street, he's his ace spoon coon, man.
Well, Bob, we're gonna we're gonna leave it at that, and we're gonna watch and see what happens over the next few days, as and the pushback or the acceptance of the president's speech, and see, and we'll come back and discuss some of those things, and and see if the community has been fired up.